Today we get to talk with Andi Tibor. Andi, will you please introduce yourself? Tell us about your job. What do you get to do?
Well, I'm Andi Tibor. I am a registered nurse at Gundersen Health System. I was recently deployed back to the hospital to help with the surge of patients for the pandemic. But typically I work at the clinic in Winona, Minnesota in specialty care, which means I work in a department where all of the outreach providers from La Crosse, Wisconsin come to Winona maybe once a week, maybe twice a week, maybe once a month to see their patients so they don't have to drive all the way to La Crosse to see them. So I get to see a lot of different things. And in the hospital, I worked there for a little over 7 years and got to see lots of surgical patients and definitely a lot of different experiences in the hospital.
Cool. Which do you prefer, the hospital work or the clinic work?
It depends on the level of stress you want to deal with. The hospital work is fun because it's always go, 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 and there's always something new happening. The clinic work is also exciting for my particular department because we see so many different outreach providers. But it kind of just depends on what kind of person you are. And if you really like the fast pace, then the hospital is definitely where you want to go. And if you like a slower, more calm pace and you like being on the phone, then the clinic is where you're going to want to be.
Andi, how did you decide that you wanted to be a nurse? And how did you get your schooling?
So I actually started off my college career as an accounting major because I really liked math and I thought that's what I wanted to do with my life. And then I had a job with an accountant in town, in my hometown. And I decided that that was just definitely not for me. I couldn't sit at a desk all day and do accounting work for years on end. So I don't even know what I decided, but I think I was currently, at the time I had been going to Winona State here in town. So I thought, oh, well, everybody here is going for nursing and they say it's one of the hardest degrees. And I was like, I'm up for a challenge, so let's just do it. So I think that was kind of part of the reason I chose it, is I wanted the challenge and I like working with people and I feel like I get along with people pretty well. So I thought I'd give it a go and I'm really glad I did.
Awesome. What is your favorite part about being a registered nurse?
Definitely the helping of people. And when people are so grateful, it just makes you feel good about yourself. And then like the reassurance of patients sometimes, like, hey, you really picked the right profession. Like you're in the right area for your kind of person. It's just hearing the, positive feedback is always nice. And if you don't hear that, it gets rough. So it's just reassuring to know that I picked the right profession and my patients agree that I'm doing a good job.
Andi, when you were changing majors, what were you most nervous about?
Oh my gosh, it was so long ago. I don't even remember, but I think mainly I was just nervous that it was going to be too hard, that I was going to get into this major and then I'm going to be like, oh, I can't even do this. And then I would do all this work and then get into a profession that I hated. But then I also knew another reason I chose nursing is because there's so many different things you can do with a nursing degree. Like, I mean, I haven't even gone into barely anything that you can do with nursing. I've just been in the hospital and the clinic. Like, there's home health. There's just an array of things you can do with nursing. And you're going to be able to find something that you like within the nursing profession.
So you were saying health aid and all these different areas you could go into. What would an entry-level position look like at the clinic or hospital?
So entry level, I think, would probably be entry level meaning like no schooling needed?
No schooling.
Okay. So we have a lot of, at the clinic, they're called patient liaisons or PLs, and they check people in for their appointments at the front desk and answer the phones and stuff like that. And that would be an entry level position for sure. Also, in the hospital setting, they're called HUCs or health unit coordinators. They do kind of the same thing, but they are more focused on one unit. So they know all the ins and outs of all the unit, and literally I will call them frequently and ask them questions because they just know everything. But you don't need specific schooling to do it. So it is entry level.
Great. Can you tell me some of the cool technology that you use as a registered nurse?
Oh, there's so much technology. So we use Epic. They just upgraded Mayo actually to Epic. They were using Cerner, and that's just their way of charting all the patient information and assessments and such. We recently started doing intermediate level of care patients in the hospital prior to me leaving. And we have specific monitors that we would hook the patient up for, like blood pressures and EKGs, and it has the rhythm strip right on there. And then it syncs with the computer, so it sends all that information over there. Use barcode scanning. So within Epic system, we have scanners to scan medications and anything we give the patient. So it's just a like double way to verify that you're giving the right medication to the right patient. Gosh, there's a lot of technology involved with everything.
So are those like software programs?
Epic I believe Epic would be a software program. And then I believe within the GE monitor, there's another program that hooks up with Epic to make them sync. Otherwise, they use Workday and Kronos. Kronos is our time clock one. So that'd be another program we use. And Workday is like where we would go to see our pay stubs, and they're going to be putting all of our education on there as well. So if we had education assigned to us by our managers or supervisors, it would be listed on Workday for us to complete.
So even though you have your 4-year degree for registered nurse, you still have to get more education?
Yes, so it actually differs state to state. For my Wisconsin nursing license, I don't have to do continuing education. I am only required to do the continuing education that is provided to me by my employer. So I just have to keep up with whatever education comes out to me. And every year at Gundersen, they have yearly mandatory education that we have to do, and it's just watching videos and going through and doing the quizzes and stuff like that. And then for my Minnesota nursing license, I have to have both because I work in both states. So my Minnesota nursing license actually requires me to get 24 hours of continuing education hours every 2 years. So, and you renew it every 2 years. So you have to pay for that out of pocket, and then you have to find your own time to do it, which is kind of the downfall of having a Minnesota nursing license. But some of the states have compacts where they will let you get a license in one state and you'll still be licensed in another state. But Minnesota and Wisconsin, unfortunately, are not like that, which is really annoying since they're so close.
So it sounds like Gundersen provides a lot of training opportunities for you. How else does Gundersen invest in you as an employee?
Gundersen's 401k and benefits are great. Like compared to a lot of the other companies, it's almost like not comparable. Even to Mayo. Mayo is like super good to their employees too, and like obviously they have awesome wages because they got to be competitive as Mayo. But Gundersen, I feel like, invests in you more long term and really wants you to stay. So they try to give you really good benefits and retirement and things like that. And I don't know, it kind of depends on where you work in the hospital or clinic too, and who you work with. But they also encourage like interdepartment things, like doing things together. Like this for Christmas this year, we had Secret Santa and just little things like that. So it's really fun.
What would you say helped you in high school prepare for your success now?
Definitely taking the advanced placement courses and working towards knowing that I was going to college. So I did at least 2 advanced placement classes while I was still in college. One of them was chemistry and the other was English. Looking back, I honestly wish I would have done what some of the kids do these days, like post-secondary, and they start college like at their junior year almost. Because that would have been the jump start that would have saved me a lot of money and B, a lot of time. But you know, when you're young, you just want to be with your friends. So it's completely understandable either way. But if I had to go back and do it again, I would do more advanced placement classes and try to get started in my career as quick as I could.
Andi, when you were pursuing accounting, do you think those classes still helped you prepare for your success?
I think so, because I didn't get too far into it before I changed my mind. So I only wasted like a half of a year with classes. So all in all, it was 4.5 years of college that it finally took me. And most of them were generals. And I mean, the accounting classes, you still need that in real life too. You still got to know how to do your own taxes. So I feel like that probably helped me in the long run. I mean, I don't really feel like there's a class you can take in college that isn't going to help you at some point in your life, minus like Pilates, but still.
Awesome. Well, it sounds like your experience of the entry-level accounting work is really what helped you narrow down and choose that that was not the field for you. Are there any other work experience things you would recommend to young people to explore their career options?
I guess just trying to get out there and hook up with as many like employee people that you know, and just explore your options, because you only get to do it once. And I mean, yeah, you can go back to school, but school is expensive. So you really only want to do it once, and you want to do it right. You want to make sure you're going into something that you're really going to like, and just try to think long-term for yourself. Like, is this something I'm going to really like, or is this something I can work towards and build on? Like, if I wanted, I could go back and get my nurse practitioner degree. And so it's not like I have to stay just registered nurse forever. I can make my way up to nurse practitioner, and you just have to really look at what works for you.
Andi, what does a typical day look like for you as a registered nurse?
In the hospital or the clinic?
Let's talk about the hospital.
Okay, so I actually worked on Christmas. I worked yesterday. So a typical day, I do 12-hour shifts in the hospital. So I get there at 6:30 in the morning, and then I get report from the night shift nurse, and our staffing ratios are 4-to-1. So I have 4 patients to myself that I will be in charge of taking care of. But I'll get report about how the night shift went, and then all 4 patients have 8 o'clock medications. So between 7 and 9, I'm running around trying to give them all their medications, doing their assessments, making sure everything sounds okay with their heart, lungs, doing pulse assessments, making sure their neurological function is good, all that stuff. And then pretty much when you're done with that, there's usually either another round of meds, or you got to get your patients up and walking and get them washed up for the day. And I'm paired with another aide, so there's a CNA that works with me, but she also will be assigned to 4 other patients, so they have 8 patients total that they are supposed to be walking and bathing and helping order food. So it's kind of like a teamwork thing. We work together to make sure that they get their meals ordered, they get their 4 walks a day, and they're comfortable, they get their pain medication when they need it and want it. But yeah, it just depends on how many medications they have. But the mornings are usually really busy, and then you just gotta get everything done that you can. It's a busy day. And then sometimes you're discharging patients, and as soon as you discharge one in the hospital, you're bound to get another one as soon as the room is clean. So you really gotta be on your toes.
It sounds like a really busy job. Like, you don't have a lot of downtime. Would you say that you get much for breaks?
You really have to dedicate yourself to make sure you get your breaks. So for a 12-hour shift, you're allowed, at Gundersen anyways, you're allowed 2 15-minute breaks and then 1 half-hour break. Typically, most people only get their half-hour break because they're so busy they don't have time for their 15-minute breaks. Me being pregnant, I am starving and hangry by like 9:30, so because I cannot eat really early in the morning. So I typically try to have someone cover me so I can go eat some breakfast at about 9:15, and then I'll try to get to my lunch by 3 if I'm lucky.
It sounds like the teamwork aspect of your work is really helpful just to meet everybody's needs.
Yes, definitely. I would not have stayed at the hospital for as long as I did if it would not be for the people I worked with. everybody I work with is great. They're always looking out for you. Like if they can tell you're frazzled, they'll jump in to try to help you. They'll even though they have their own 4 patients, they're going to try their best to help you. It's indescribable. You really have to be a part of it to feel it, because I was really dreading going back to the hospital just because I knew the 12-hour shifts were going to be really long, and I was actually working more hours when I went back than I was initially. So it was overwhelming. But everybody was really helpful, and they really want you to succeed, and they want your patients to be well taken care of.
Andi, you said the change to working at the hospital is because of COVID, and Gundersen asked you to change locations. What would you say to somebody who's concerned about going into healthcare right now, knowing that we're in the middle of COVID pandemic?
So I would say that they shouldn't be worried about being pushed into a position that they're not ready for. The only reason that I was sent back to the hospital is because had been so recent since I left the hospital. So they sent out a list of people that had just recently transitioned to different areas. And if your area wasn't considered as busy as the hospital, then you had to get pulled back to the hospital. So like, for instance, in order for me to leave my clinic position, I had to train in another nurse. I had to give her a 2-day crash course because she already worked in the clinic, but she'd never worked in the hospital. So the training time it took me to tell her how to do my job in the clinic compared to teach her how to be a hospital nurse would have been it. I mean, the training you get when you start in the hospital is at least 10 weeks. So they just needed people to come back and be like, okay, I know how to do this and I can help. We need all hands on deck. So there's definitely a lot of new nurses right now that are on the unit. And there was a lot of new faces that I didn't know when I came back. I was like, oh, I've never met you before. And I've only been gone for 6 months. So that was interesting, but there are times when they have to stretch it. So sometimes the nurse that you're paired with that's training you will have to take patients as well as try to teach you. And I mean, that's going to happen anywhere in healthcare because it's just so unpredictable when people are going to call in sick. But some days you'll have extra people, you'll have people on call, and then you'll have all this help. And it's a roller coaster, honestly.
It sounds like you really enjoy your job. What else do you think students should know about you or your position?
I don't really know. There's not much to know. I mean, I like healthcare, and I think that you can do, like I said, you can do a lot of things with it. And I think it's a really good area to get started in and get your career and degree in.
Awesome. One last question. Andi, what would you tell your 18-year-old self?
I would tell my 18-year-old self that I'm going to be a nurse and not an accountant.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today and telling us about your job. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome.